What's up, guys? So first video of the new year for me. I'm gonna get caught up on this Ironhead 74 Ironhead vintage chopper build. It's been kind of neglecting videos on this build, but I'm so much further along now than the last one I did. I'm gonna go ahead and just do this one now because I'm really close to breakdown again for paint, powder coat, chrome. And, again, once that happens, I'll never be able to go back to this point again. It's one thing I did, like about getting into this whole YouTube thing, which was a suggestion to me from a lot of people in the start. Is at least it's an archive for me, a build archive of everything that I do. So I'm going to go ahead and get you caught up on this now. The last time, it was just a hardtailed frame. And I think I had just got the stock wheels and tires back in it, and that was it. Frame with two wheels and tires in the front end, and everything, just about everything's in it now. So we'll go ahead and get into it. So there's some pretty tremendous ground for me to have to cover here as far as updating this build, but I'll just let the video speak for itself for the most part. So Frisco gas tank is mounted, seat, rear fender, sissy bar fab I just finished on Christmas Day itself. I think I had just finished this top part on Christmas Day in the afternoon. This is all hand heated, hand twisted, and this is getting chromed. I do have to finish up some final welding in here on these gussets and metal finishing. I wanted something that was going to be no Fender hardware. So originally I was going to use bungs, and I came up with this, which what I wound up doing was when I made this rear plate and that front plate, I actually sandwiched two coupling nuts up inside there before putting that top piece on. And so now you just have your two bolts that come up from the bottom, and that's it. I actually spaced that a bit too, so I could put a thin piece of leather in there in final assembly. But other than that, really happy with the way it came out. Fender is a 4 3/4 wide lowbrow piece, and which was necessary after we got this new wheel and tire combo in, because that's only a 4-inch wide tire, which made I could have modified the stock one, narrowed it, and all that, but with the prices that they've got these things down to now, again, just ordered one. I took 3 inches off the bottom. It was a bit too long once I got that clocked in there where I wanted it. And then just this last week, I had finished these side pieces right here under the seat. So I had looked at tons of these bikes when I started this build. And I don't normally, this build is atypical for me in the fact that I don't really do these kind of factory type builds, or I don't know, it's just hard for me to word it. This is the kind of build that a lot of people get into. And what I mean by that is, like, I usually do stuff, like that, the Harley rat rod that I did is a big example of what I'm normally doing, like, putting a Harley engine in a 4-wheel thing, and I'm making a body and all that, or even with these mini bikes that I do that are totally, completely one-off designs and stuff. So whenever I get into stuff like this is normal, quote unquote, normal for me. Granted, there's not much left of a stock bike. But when I do have to do something like this, what I will do is I'll look at tons of them and kind of pick apart the stuff that I don't like. And one of the main things was with the oil tank. I know you can mount it in front of the seat post or behind, and whichever you do, it usually leaves a big old open hole on these iron heads, which I know some people like. I don't really care for it. I kind of like my stuff being tight and compacted looking. So I made those. And I know if you run like a horseshoe oil tank, that's not really an issue, but we both wanted a barrel. So I made those side panels to fill that, which I love the way they came out. Now, as a consequence of this that I had not originally planned, this is the left side one. With those in there, it forms a triangle compartment under the seat. So by the time this is up in there, under the seat itself, you've got a triangle between the seat post and, it comes to the outside edge of the fender. So you've got that space in there, and I'm like, why don't I go ahead and mount the ignition there and the push button for the starter. And the other nice thing of that was I had also mounted that license plate bracket and stoplight right there. The battery is right there. So I'm like, wow, that's perfect. Everything is all in that spot that's electrical, with the exception of the coil and the headlight, which is no big deal because that's just, both of those just get a hot wire. So that worked out great with that, plus filling up that space. And his painter, it's got room to put whatever graphic on that piece that matches the tank and the fender, the frame, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of a nice area for a little more paint or a little more graphic. And he's still not sure on front end. I'm pretty sure at this point it's going to be sticking with this telescoping hydraulic, the stocker. I did tell him if he's going to do that to get those lowers shaved and polished. And other than that, because he was on the fence about getting a Springer. And even at one point going as far as getting a Sugar Bear front end and all that, which I had kind of advised against because I'm like, if it were mine, I wouldn't be putting that kind of money into this bike. Maybe if it was a shovel or a pan, okay. But it's his money, it's his bike. He can do whatever he wants, but I just didn't think it was that practical putting on a front end that's almost as much money as the bike. And as far as that battery box, that's a lowbrow unit as well. And what I did was I took that sucker straight out of the box and took about 2 inches out of it side to side. So it would be cut down for an anti-gravity lithium battery because it would have been in the way of the chain line for a standard battery. Now it's wide open. And with this narrow fender, it didn't even need to be clearanced. And I know some people, they'll actually raise that battery box and have the left side of it sticking out past this lower frame tube. And for one thing, I don't like that personally. And second of all, I've got this there. And I had to make an adapter piece right here. You can hardly see it, but it's a big old block of 1 inch square steel stock that I had to put to raise that plate up anyhow. So there was just no room to scoot that battery box over, so I had narrowed it down. And these drags, these pipes, I just got on here yesterday. They're upswept open drags. They are Paco units. And it was kind of back and forth for a while if I was going to end up fabbing some crazy set for this, or if we were just going to go with a bolt-on set. And he liked these. I told him, I'm like, hey, look, for what you pay for these, it's going to cost a lot more if I have to make you a set, and then you still have to get them chromed and stuff. So we went ahead and just got this. I did have to make a bracket for the back, because these were just not set up with this new geometry for the hardtail. So I made a bracket for that, and this seat is an eBay piece. I don't remember who it was that he had got it from, but they did do a really nice job. And I went ahead and did a frame bung for the front of that, and Frisco tank is the same thing, frame bungs. And the next thing I gotta tackle, which is, I really think it's the next and last major thing, is the controls. So like I said, this is right side shift, and everyone is under the same consensus that because it's right side shift, and they don't make them no more, to keep it right side shift. The only thing that differs or varies from that is we are going to make it right side hand shift, which is going to be another engineering thing for me next. And I want it right. I don't want it to be some cobbled together thing. I want it to work good and smooth and accurately, blah, blah, blah. And we were going to originally do left side foot clutch. But after we both thought about it, that idea has kind of been scrapped. And we're going to go ahead and leave the hand clutch. And this being a hydraulic brake now over the factory drum, I'm going to go ahead and make this right side foot brake. And I'll just run a fluid line over here. Wheels was another huge, oh my gosh, man, it was such a nightmare for me. So now this is an 18 by 2.5 rear, and it's all basically been modernized. I mean, it's a billet hub, and it's got an 11.5-inch rotor with a 4-piston caliper. So we basically took off the front brake and doubled down on the rear. And originally this was gonna get a 16 by 3, which is the most common for these. But at the time, whenever we started this build, there were none. I mean, everybody was out of 16 by 3 dual flange rear wheels. And then for a while we were gonna keep the 18 by 3 factory one with the drum brake, but that was its own nightmare because it's a 17 millimeter axle, and the hardtail, the new hardtail, was set up for 3/4 axle, and just back and forth. And then the 17 millimeter stock axle was too narrow for the new hardtail, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And finally, at a last ditch decision, he went ahead and got the 18 by 2.5, and we're both totally satisfied with that now. So it's basically got that tall and skinny vibe going on, but it still looks totally nice for what we're going for. And having the 3/4 inch axle now is just, it took way more of the headache out of it for me. So that's where I'm at now, and not too much further to go. I think probably the next video I do on this, I'm going to wait till it's done, which is probably going to be right here within the next 2 months from where we started. So a 4-month build, 3.5, 4-month build from total stocker to this has been, especially with the shipping problems, we're both really happy with that. And I hope you guys have a great 2022. I don't know, who knows what will happen with me this year with builds. I don't really plan stuff. Things kind of unfold organically for me. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll keep you posted.